Welcome to Kraken Knuckleheads. Rob Simpson with you from Hockey HQ. Things are a little askew at the moment. Typically, I do like an intro, talk about other hockey topics, bring in the guest. But today we're jumping right into it because I have no power. We're doing the hotspot, and our pal Darren Eliot in Vegas, he's having technical issues as well with his laptop. What's up, Darren? How are you?
I'm good. Good to reconnect, Simmer.
I know it's great to see you. You're working for a hell of a hockey club. Um, the Vegas Golden Knights 8-0 at home. They have 17 goal differential plus, which is third best in the National Hockey League. They're in first place in the Pacific Division. I mean, yada, yada, yada. Do you have anything to complain about?
Not really. If you talk to head coach Bruce Cassidy, he'll say that the one that they haven't sorted out really and been consistent is in the rush defense. If coaches can go that far down the pick list, things are going pretty well. And coming into the season, everyone was like, "Where are the goals?" A bunch of goals walked out the door. Who's going to score? How about everybody? 18 different guys have scored goals already. So off to a good start. And as you mentioned, Simmer, especially at home.
You know what? When I look at the D, like, I mean, say build from the goal line out,
Yeah,
Samsonov had phenomenally good. I know he had his moments, but great numbers in Toronto. He's got off to a great start here. He's day to day at the moment, so it doesn't
yeah.
sound like too serious. But if you work from the goal out, your D core, man, that's a strong group.
Yeah, if you go, I mean, like a lot of sports, right? You build from the back end and the decor with, Alex Petrangelo, Shea Theodore, Noah Hannafin. So there are three guys that can actually transport, as they call it, transport the puck, drive
Yeah.
offense from the back end. Um, and the other guy, Nick Hague, Zach Whitecloud have been a good third pair for about this is their third season. Oh yeah, and Braden McNabb, one of the original Misfits, just a do-all kind of guy back there. So it's a strong core, and then down the middle, right? You talk about defense core and then centerman,
Yeah.
and this team as well with Eichel, Tomas Hertl finding his way. You've got Wild Bill, William Karlsson back in the fold makes a big difference, which makes Nick Waugh your fourth line center
Wow.
really good.
Yeah, that's amazing. By the way, one besides the goaltender, Victor Olofsson's the one guy that's dinged up. He's on IR. Tell us a little bit. I think it's Pavel Dorofeyev. I don't know how you say his name properly.
Yeah, he's so Olofsson goes out. He scored 3 goals in his first few games.
Yeah.
On power play, they put Dorofeyev in that shooting spot, and he hasn't missed 7 goals on the season. The thing about Dorofeyev, he was here at Henderson with the Silver Knights, the AHL team,
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, and I never saw him play on the inside. He was good enough at that level to create his own shot, but he stayed on the perimeter. Going to the National Hockey League, they put him on William Karlsson's line, I think, initially, and all he did was play on the inside, go to the dirty areas, score a bunch of goals, grinding away. It's like, oh, he was saving himself, but he, um, he's proven to be a dual threat, a guy that can play inside and can score from a bit of distance. And you know how that, you've seen it so many times, guys get confidence and they never look back, and that's where they are with Pavel Dorofeyev.
You know, they always say it starts at the top with ownership, and old Bill there is Foley. There's
Yeah,
no mucking about. Like he just reloads. If he's got to get rid of somebody, he brings somebody else in. It's all, obviously having to deal with the cap. And
yeah.
there's been a little bit of controversy regarding, how they handle injury reserve and how they've long term and how they brought guys back at the right time, all this stuff. But I mean, look at the talent that's there. And it's all healthy and it's all under the cap.
Well, as long as it's healthy, yeah. This year you can actually have 13 forwards, 8 defensemen, and a couple goalies, so that they have no cap issues at all to deal with. The the thing about what they've done in terms of going out and saying we're not ever going to wait. So they've traded first round picks and all those kinds of things. But when they find the players they want, Eichel 8 years, Stone 8 years, Hanovan 8 years, Theodore last week 8, they lock in their core pieces, and they've done a really good job. I don't know exactly what their secret sauce is in terms of identifying players that fit how we want to play, or another part of it being the type of individuals we want that will fit the team group. They've done a marvelous job of that from the outset.
Right. How long ago did you leave Detroit?
5.5 years.
Oh my
Was
gosh.
middle of the 19 season, and I was supposed to leave earlier, but had to finish up some work at what was then Fox Sports Detroit, but now we know everybody's changed names a bunch of different times.
Yeah. Man, I can't believe that was 5.5 years ago.
I know. I know. I came out here to build the second hockey rink, the training facility for the Henderson Silver Knights. Establish the youth hockey and grow it, and do a little bit of broadcasting. So all the different at my age, somebody you want as many reasons for them to invite you back to the rink as possible.
I gotcha. By the way, a happy birthday coming up later this month.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm not far behind you, so I know the feeling. And that's why for both of us, the 5.5 years went by like that. I'm like,
That's right. I mean,
what?
some disruption globally in that 5.5 years with the
True.
thing, right? It's like it threw everybody's timing off. It threw mine off, that's for sure.
I don't know if folks realize, but Darren Eliot was a 4-year starter at Cornell University, and a decade after Kenny Dryden. And I was going to ask you, was there was that comparison still being made by the boosters on campus like a decade later? Like, oh, maybe he's the next Ken Dryden. Oh, well, he's not. No, Ken Dryden. Right? Was that just a constant?
I was there at the same time as Brian Hayward.
Yep.
He's no Brian Hayward. we were really good. We became great friends at a young age, and pushed each other along. Enjoyed my time there. But yeah, Ken Dryden, I mean, legend. And it's funny because they had some really good teams at the end of the '60s, beginning of the '70s, and Ken Dryden lost like 3 games in his whole career, and you couldn't play as freshman back then in the Ivy League, so he played 3. But they had an undefeated season. He wasn't the goalie. He lost 1 game. It was Dave Ellenbass had the perfect season, and it's like, who? And it's like, yeah, another guy that went on to do bigger and better things outside of hockey.
That was 1970, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You came in '79. Now, the interesting, I looked at your stats because you and Hazy and I were all working the Olympics in Torino together. And that's when I first discovered, I was like, this is incredible that you two guys are both on television and you're both now working together. 3 years as a tandem. I believe your senior year, you started every game yourself.
Right. So the story went, so I like nowadays, you probably wouldn't go there, right? You'd have a family advisor saying they've already got a freshman goalie there. You want to go where else? We had very little information back at that time. It's like, yeah, I'll just play better than him, naively. He gets mono. So I get to play. And, right. And we were up and down, and we won 5 games to get into the ECAC champion. We win it out of nowhere. Wow. Go to the Frozen Four before it was called the Frozen Four. So I get drafted. The next year we split flip-flop every game. The third year, which is Hazy's senior year, coach calls us in. Dick Birchman goes, "You're drafted. He's not. He's a senior. You're not. He's playing. You're not."
I noticed that. I was like, Hazy, he stole your starts in year 3, but
it's his turn to play. And I'm like, didn't like it. I would have handled it better, but when I sobered up in April, I realized I was going to be a senior and better get my act together. Yeah. But it was then the next year. I mean, so Brian played really, really well. He was All-American. The next year, as you mentioned, I started every game. I was All-American, and so it all worked out, and we remained friends all these years later.
Yeah, that's great. I kind of like that from the coach, though. I mean, it's good. It's fair and equitable. He is the senior. You've been drafted. I mean, give him a crack, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And if Hazy hadn't played so well, I'm sure I would have got in there. But he played unbelievable that year.
Yeah, and then you still had your senior year to play all the games.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And then 88 NHL games in a not an envious time to be a goalie, mid-'80s, when Gretzky and everybody else was just lighting things up. There was no D in the NHL at that point. Mostly LA Kings.
You look at the goaltending. we had some things that could be improved upon as we've seen over the last 30 years or so.
Yeah, well, your pads and everything were a hell of a lot different than what we're looking at now.
Yeah, it was it's what it was. It's the area you played in. There are lots of things I can explain away. The diving poke check, because guys would barrel you over if they were driving off the wing. So you wanted to make the save, couldn't control a rebound, but you wanted to live to make the next save. So you got out of the way and you did the diving poke check. The one thing I can't explain is the kick save, right? You took the small part of your gear, the skate blade, and tried to kick a slap shot into the corner to control the rebound. We could have been smarter than that, I think.
Yeah. But you know what? It looked really cool.
Well, that was it, right? The windmill glove saves, even the windmill blocker saves.
Right. By the way, any cool, I'm going to look up pictures. I usually put photos of people or events and things we discuss over us at certain times during the pod.
Yeah.
Any cool mask designs that I might be able to find that you wore?
No, Jofa, the old Jofa.
Oh, cage
combination. Yeah. But I thought it was cool.
Yeah, but you came after the pure,
Yeah, I went to the molded mask later on, but it was white because I was traded so many times. I was just like, might as well keep it neutral.
Yeah. And then, of course, got involved with the Red Wings organization because after a couple of games with the big club, you spent a couple seasons with Adirondack, and they had a good
Down to Buffalo. I had the downward trending career, but it's what you make of it at the time. I used to complain that I only got to play me against Edmonton. It's like, well, if I would have played those 9 games really well, I wouldn't have had to play anymore. I would have had you would make a name. So it's how you approach stuff and how you look at it as an opportunity, or you think that you're being hard done by it. So I didn't always handle those situations that well that time of my life. But, those Edmonton teams were formidable, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah. Grant Fuhr would give up 7 goals and win.
Well, I've got a Grant Fuhr story, 8-8 tie, an 8-8 tie. And so back those days, we didn't really travel right after the game all the time, hardly ever. We're at the bar. I'm with Steve Shutt, a couple other guys. Bartender comes over with a Magnum. He goes, guy at the end of the bar sent this over to you. It was Grant Fuhr, and he goes, we earned it.
An 8-8 tie.
Yeah, and it was 8-6. I went to the bench. Bernie Nichols scores. Do it all over again. Bernie Nichols scores to make it an 8-8 tie. We score with the goalie pulled twice to me. And then the opening faceoff of overtime, Gretzky gets a breakaway.
Oh, geez.
Those are it was different. Let's just be honest. I mean, goaltending, I've already, said they've improved the position multifold, but 49-42 shots on goal, right? It was just different. I don't know what else.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, let's jump back to current events because the Vegas Golden Knights are in Seattle later in the week to play the Kraken, a team that is not deep, a team that because of the cap is carrying around, well, when they're completely healthy, they're only carrying around 21 players. You're not going to see Vince Dunn, their best defenseman. Some would argue Brandon Montour is now their best defenseman. Either way, they can't really afford to have Dunner out of the lineup. So you have a vulnerable team that hasn't scored a goal in 123 minutes. And it looks like they're relying on Joey Decord in net. So is this just play a great road game and be the Vegas Golden Knights and you'll probably take care of business?
Well, they play in Edmonton Wednesday, in Seattle Friday. They haven't won on the road yet. They haven't played that poorly per se, but all the numbers are down, in particular on the scoring side of things. But small sample size. I think they feel a veteran team. We've already talked about depth down the middle, blue line. If they get to their game per se, that quote unquote, what get to your game, if they're pressing and forechecking and really squeezing back with their routes on the back check, they're just a hard team to play against. Doesn't mean you're going to win, but you're going to earn it typically against the Golden Knights if you beat them.
Yeah. Well, that has been the identification, the ID for the identity for Seattle in the past has been just outwork them, grind them, but
Yeah,
it hasn't thus far.
especially their depth is, if when you can roll four lines and 3D pairings pretty consistently, and if you need to, you've got a line in Eichel, Stone, and Barbashev that's been off to a great start. If you fall down a goal, you can trot those kind of guys out. You have a pretty good chance to win, but you have to play hard. They have to play hard. That's just the way they're built. They're big and kind of heavy in today's terms on the forecheck. They like to hold. And heavy to me really just means, are you strong enough to hold on to the puck in the offensive zone and not get away easily? When they play like that, they're a tough out for sure.
Yeah. I mean, depending on what Seattle does in Colorado in a couple of nights, maybe this could end up being some type of trap game for Vegas, depending on what happens with them in Edmonton. But
right.
One other thing, that this is something that doesn't really apply anymore because of social media. Every telephone has a camera. And you referred to going out to the bar after the game, and having drinks, and that was standard operating procedure. When I even was traveling with teams in the early 2000s on charters, drop the bags off, go to the Roxy in Vancouver, that kind of thing. So that just doesn't happen because guys don't want to be seen. Now, Vegas, that's probably a little bit of a different story because there's a lot of places to hide. There's a lot of trouble. You could potentially get trouble, quote unquote. You could do fun you could have, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Without those cameras and all that good stuff. So do we think that is a modern version of the old days where guys maybe take a few liberties and that contributes to the 8-0 record?
Well, I think the first year for sure. I don't know that there's that much of a home ice advantage because the visitors were out. Teams have gotten smart. Let me put it this way. At our practice facility, the City National Arena where the Vegas Golden Knights train, we have visiting teams book practice ice. Yeah. They used to do it before. Now they stay a couple extra days. They built it on the back end after the game. I think organizations got pretty wise because guys would put their bags down in Vegas. And, like you said, there's lots of private rooms in Vegas where cameras don't enter the picture anymore.
Right. So now they stick around and skate the team afterwards.
Right. They let them go out. They're fun, have practice, get on the plane, get to your next destination. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Don't screw up the game. If you're going to screw up practice.
Well, we'll skate it out of you and hopefully you get your rest and then get ready for the next.
Okay. Well, because boys will still be boys, as we know.
Yep. Absolutely.
Hopefully. What's that?
Hopefully that never changes.
No, exactly. Darren, it's a pleasure to catch up to you again. It's been too long. Zippity-doo goes the clock. And as you mentioned, COVID didn't help. But great to see you kicking
again, Simmer. All the best with what's this called again? Knuckles and
Kraken Knuckleheads, baby. I can't use
Knuckleheads.
Can't use their official names. Don't have the rights or the insignias. So we modified it for purposes of 2 markets in the Pacific North. We call it Pacific North Hockey.
There you go. You're always smart.
Oh, yeah. Cheers, my friend.
Take care.